Hi everybody, this is Urszula and this is the video for our conclusive debates for our course on queer women in Central and Eastern European cinema. With this conclusion, I wanted to take you to the debate how feminism is Eastern Europe and feminist thinking, including LGBT queer thinking, was developing in these last 20 years or 28 years after the collapse of communism. In this very video, in this short video, I wanted to talk about 1990s and very shortly tell you about how I see 1990s as the decade of development of feminisms and language of LGBTQ, the queer languages. And I do believe that despite various very conservative moves, especially in government, I think in the public space, public spheres, cultural spheres, and academic spheres, we see a flourishing, a blossoming, and this dynamic development of feminism and queer studies. When I think about conservative movement or conservative moves, first of all, I think about 1993 anti-abortion law. And today, this is the only thing I wanted to mention because it is very symptomatic to the decade of 1990s as being very complicated and full of various paradoxes. 1993 anti-abortion law was introduced as kind of symbolic sign against communism. In communism, abortion was pretty easy. The access to abortion was pretty easy, and it changed. It was changing from decade to decade in terms of the particularities or the access, which weeks, etc. We don't go into these details, but this post-transformative, this post-communist move to reclaim the right to decide about women's body, to reclaim the right to deny abortion, it seems it is very often analyzed or interpreted by feminist hair stories as the conservative, connected to Catholic Church move to take over the power of women's body, and also to go back to what it was before communism, how the position of the church, how strong it was within society. When we think about publication about abortion in Polish culture and in Polish language, I wanted to mention two books. First of all, it is Kazimiera Sztuka Milczenie Owieczek, The Silence of the Lamb or The Little Lamb. It's the thing about abortion, and it's written in the very popular, very interesting, dynamic way, discourse of how it has happened, what happened in the beginning of 1990s, and why this abortion becomes so important. It's full of little anecdotes, very sad analysis about how the women's circles has been marginalized, and that these women's voices were completely silenced. And here the 1993 anti-abortion law came to power. This anti-abortion law makes actually one of the strictest abortion law in European countries. This abortion law seems to be like almost impossible. It's so difficult to get an abortion in Poland, and even in the few exceptions, such as the pregnancy is threatening the women's life, the pregnancy is a result of a rape, or the pregnancy is a result of incestuous relationship. The exception that the pregnancy is of the minor, so the child is pregnant. Also the exception that the pregnancy, the fetus, is not developing well. There is so many cases that even though women has legal right to the abortion, it's still denied. So, and also, the fact that women cannot decide about their body even in the first weeks, it seems to be ridiculous. Yet this anti-abortion law in 2016 was proposed to be radicalized further. So the government got government went through a serious debate to restrict even further this anti-abortion law from 1993, and deny any exceptions to anti-abortion law. So the women should give birth in any case of pregnancy. And this give birth to this something which I wanted to say, which we talk about, the Black protests. And the Kazimierza Szczuka's book shows very clearly how this 1990s debate actually put women in this position of silence, the position of women who, when want to have an abortion, is a devil and evil woman, and woman that does something morally wrong. And this connection of abortion discourse with religious discourse is very complicated, and it gives the general subject, this general topic, a very, very complicated and multi-layers debate. And in the link to this video, I give you the link to one of the presentation of Marzena Jakubczak, my friend, who gave the presentation about the philosophical assumption and of the anti-abortion discourse, and how Black protests wanted to reclaim women's right to the body, trying to get rid of this religious connection to the legal right to abortion. And Marzena Jakubczak talk was given exactly in 2016 while the Black protests were going on at University College London, where I initiated a series of debate on Black protests. Kazimierza Szczuka, the same author, gave a young girl, because this is the target of this book, written in the very popular way, full of nice pictures and very interesting way of publishing. It's basically a very basic book on abortion. It's a duża książka o aborcji bez tabu, the big book on abortion without taboo. And this book is actually a must of every young girl trying to get rid of this religious contamination of abortion discourse, and to talk about only the right, because to have the right to abortion is not to, it doesn't mean that you need to have it or you are forced to have it. It's just that if you feel, and you are in the position of, you're not in the position of having children, the law should give you the choice. So that is the assumption. So, but let's go back to 1993. Let's go back to the optimistic 1990s. So despite this controversial and conservative move, introduction of anti-abortion law, the feminism is thriving. It's not only publications, books, language, gender studies, but it's also feminist social initiatives were dynamic. And first of all, for example, there is the first feminist magazine called Pełnym Głosem. I have one of the issue here. It looks like this. Pełnym Głosem. It was from 1993 to 1997 in full voice. It is published by the organization from Krakow called FK, and it is still, when you look into this, it is a very innovative, interesting, progressive debate on connection, on women's rights, on queer studies, on the connection between lesbianism and feminism, and also the publication of short stories on the very feminist short stories, women's writing, lesbian poetry, and all this all means not only gathering academics that deal with these issues, that talks and gives the commentary of the reality through gender studies, but also it means that it is the very publication and the readership of and everybody who reads it develop this kind of gender sensitivity and gender language. So this is a very, very important publication. This publication ends in 1997, but it is followed by the new magazine, also published in Krakow. It is a new form, but also gathering this, the people of the same interest, and it's called Zadra. I have here a few issues, but they are, very recently, 2016, 2015, 2012, and we have this is the 50th number and issue, and you can see Zadra, and it's Zadra is a sphincter. It's something that is behind your skin, but also it can be a name, a nickname for a girl, for a woman who is a little bit annoying, a little bit too arrogant, and that, and this is what the name means. At Zadra, all these women that deals and again wanted to destabilize this heteronormative reality we live in. And the subtitle of the magazine is obviously Pismo Feministyczne, the feminist magazine. And Zadra is still going on. It usually was a monthly. Now it's a little bit more irregular, but it's clearly time when we need Zadra. We need this queer/lesbian gendered commentary of what's going on in today's world. Well, there is also strong presence of artistic presence of feminist sensitivity in Poland of 1990s. I wanted to mention today Katarzyna Kozyra, an artist and her 1996 Olympia project basically an artwork demystifying illness and stressing the fact that illness also has gendered aspects. So trying to show that gender is everywhere. Kozyra is also important in 1990s in connection to her work like Łaźnia Bathhouse 1997 and Łaźnia Męska Bathhouse 1999, where Kozyra is juxtaposing pictures from public bathhouses with classic artworks, and this way exposing the workings of gender stereotypes and canons of beauty. And I wanted to say that I witnessed all this development of the language of the sensitivity as a student. I came to Krakow from the very small town in 1996, and I see the publication. I see the circles, the publication of FK circles, the new meetings. One of the first meetings I went to was the meeting on lesbian poetry, and suddenly I see the lesbian poetry in full voice, in pełnym głosem. I see also people gathering in the public meetings discussing lesbian poetry, and I, coming from the small town, I see that suddenly to be in the closet is not the only choice. It's that we all can be openly gay, and that we can be proud of this. We can even discuss it. There is a language to talk about this, and this is 1996. 1996 is also a time when in pełnym głosem, in full voice, there is a debate on feminism and the importance of feminism in Polish country. And even though I see this time as very optimistic, this debate in 1996, it's not very optimistic. A lot of women say, well, we need more publication, we need obviously more funding, and a lot of those discussants were very skeptical about the strength and effectiveness of feminism in Poland. Though this skepticism, well, from now when we having almost 20 years later, this skepticism probably is they were skeptical then, so how skeptical they can be now when, despite so many decades, so many years, there still a lot of conservative move, like the proposition of radicalization of already radical abortion law is still possible, and a lot of homophobia and anti-gender issues are going on. All this which we talk about during our course. But this optimism, and despite this debate on 1993 in pełnym głosem, and despite that women were saying, well, we should want more of feminism, Agnieszka Graf, in one of her articles, write about the importance of 1990s as this grassrooted activities, and I wanted to quote this article shortly. Agnieszka Graf writes, "No doubt that feminism does exist in Poland," and we're talking about 2002 or 2001, Poland of 2001. So there is no doubt that feminism does exist in Poland. It is a social movement, a style of thinking, a media debate, a much ridiculed stereotype, a fashionable topic in women's magazine, as well as thriving academic field. There are several gender studies programs, Warsaw, Krakow, Łódź, as well as dozens of women's centers and NGOs. There are countless discussion circles, workshops, self-defense classes, and nationwide coalition for bringing women into politics, and feminist bookshops on web, a group called Ulica Siostrana, the Sister Street, organizing summer camps for women, and the Feminist Theatre Collective. There are feminist street demonstrations attended by hundreds and recently even thousands of supporters, and feminist conferences to choose from almost every month. We have 5 feminist magazines, writes Graf in 2001. The magazines ranging from the academic to the popular, as well as innumerable zines, websites, and organizational bulletins. Last but not least, there is a long list of feminist books on topics from women's literary history to politics, books numerous and popular enough to have triggered the appearance of shelved, marked quote unquote gender or quotation marks women and quotation marks in many bookshops. This is Agnieszka Graf in 2001. Late of 1990s and 2000s, the days of pre-accession to European Union was also the time to meet a lot of requirements, including gender equality policies in the workplace, creating plenipotentiaries for governments, for equality between men and women, initiating the campaigns for increasing the visibility of lesbian and gay communities, such as 2003 initiative Let Them See Us, Niech Nas Zobaczą. And all this shows the 1990s is the time of very dynamic feminist, queer, equality movement that time was very, very hopeful, and gave time of the illusion of the dynamic progress. So when today we think about anti-gender attitude, something that we call and name and talk about as the war against gender, when we talk about the rise of homophobia, when we talk that there is almost no gender studies, only one postgraduate gender studies in Poland, that gender studies kind of dissolved in the various disciplines, but they are not visible as the independent departments in each university. Not at all. That in the academic research, gender studies are not listed as independent area for research, and that it has to be smuggled through the other academic discipline like literature or religion or philosophy or media studies. This is the situation today, when juxtaposed with what was happening in 1990s. We can see that this time was time of progress, of hope, of dynamic move. It is indeed 1990s the time of funding of gender studies, university courses, the PhD research on feminist archaeology of women and feminist movements, gender seminars and publications, development of language the terms like equal chances, gender transparent regulation, gender transparent policy, gender theory, queer theory, coming out, women's support groups, all those terminology was introduced. In many cases, the gender sensitive language used English vocabulary. The end of 1990s and the beginning of 2000, there are annual feminist demonstrations, the manifas. There are days against homophobia, culture for tolerance, cultura della tolleranza festivals, LGBT months, feminist internet platforms. They are fantastic times. And what has happened is that this time somehow has not been used, has not been, has not, the feminists did not make this energy of that time as powerful and as crucial for political and legal movement as it could be. Well, just to conclude this video, I just wanted to show you two books. That one book is in Polish, Zerwana genealogia, działalność społeczna i polityczna kobiet po 1945 roku, a współczesny polski ruch kobiecy. This is the book by Magdalena Grabowska, and it's last year book. Fantastic book that talks about and tells about the feminist movement in communist time and tries to find a new continuity in the feminist movement, and indeed also tries to find the way why feminism has been so marginalized in the contemporary politics, especially in the last decade. Also after this 1990s, why there was this conservative anti-feminist resentment so strong in Eastern Europe and Central Europe. Another book which I wanted to mention at the very end is the book which I co-edited, which is Women's Voices and Feminism in Polish Cultural Memory. And this book is in English, and it is a collection of essays about the history of feminism, also talks about so-called feminism Polish style. So what is happening, what has happened in last 20th century. I write a short overview of the history of feminism in Poland, but two texts are worth mentioning. It's the Polish feminism in an East-West context by Rosalind Marsh, a comparative short text, very interesting, and another Feminism Polish Style, Our Tradition or Borrowed One, again Polish versus Western feminism, what has happened, by Ewa Kraskowska. Okay, so that is all for this. We have the idea of what is 1990s versus today's about, and that the next video will be about popular culture and why popular culture was so anti-feminist in Poland, and we will talk about it as the way to explain this easiness of anti-feminist backlash, anti-gender backlash that is going on in Polish culture nowadays. Thank you.